as you see here, in our next step here in the epoxy table, as you can see, I have quite a few things out in front of me here, but I'm going to explain to you exactly what I have and why. Well, as you all know, before you start a process with something, you want to make sure, especially when you're gluing or adhering something, you want to make sure you have all your materials in front of you, so that way you're not searching for them, because sometimes it's all time dependent. So today, what I have is I have my epoxy hardener resin, and it's a 2-to-1 ratio. I have a clean bucket that's the inside for me to mix in, and then I have a stick that already has epoxy all over it. It's clear epoxy, so I don't have to worry about any dust or debris getting inside here when I'm mixing it. And then what I do have today is I do have some of the dyes for the epoxy, and what I'm going to do is the base color that I'm going to put in the bottom of this is going to be black. We do have 2 different colors that we're using. I'll show you kind of how that's going to work out, but for the very first step, what we're going to have to use the one color in the epoxy mix for the base, okay? So that's going to be black. I'll explain to you later how we're going to mix in the other part. I haven't seen anyone do anything like this, but we've done it here in the shop a couple times. It's kind of dramatic looking, creative looking when we're all done. So, without further ado, like I said, this is a 2-to-1 ratio mixture in the epoxy. With this manufacturer, I can only put about a 1/4 inch of a pour per pour, and every 6 hours I need to start pouring. So yes, that means that I'll be back here in the middle of the night pouring again, and early again tomorrow morning pouring this, because it needs to be poured every 6 hours with this manufacturer of this epoxy. So here we go. So like what I like to do is I always like to, when I do this, one is maybe so I don't get confused or mixed up, but the other one is so I can keep it straight on how many batches I make. Now, I just put 2 pumps of resin, 1 pump of hardener, and I always go back. So I'm not going to like just do 20 of this and 10 of this. I don't do that. I depress the amount of material or epoxy or hardener according to how I'm putting it in, because I want it to mix up or be put into the container the same rate as what it's supposed to be mixed at. So it might help in the mixing. Maybe not, but we've had a lot of success doing it this way, so I don't like to deviate, okay? So we're gonna have to create quite a bit of epoxy inside of here. You always want to make sure that the pump goes all the way to the top, so that way you're getting an accurate amount of material into the bucket. is I'm going to start mixing this real thoroughly. I don't use an agitator on this one, but I find that this works out really well. Just use a scrap stick. Let me show you what this looks like. So I want to make sure that I don't have, or I'm not creating all kinds of bubbles inside of here. You'll see later I do have a heat gun, and the heat gun, you'll apply it to the surface, and that'll allow for us to bring the bubbles to the top, so that way you don't have the bubbles inside. Okay. So that's that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and this company gives you like a little shovel. It looks like a little shovel here. And you pull out some of the dye. Now this dye is really strong, so you don't need a whole bunch of it to get the color desired excuse me, in the epoxy. So one of these, this massive amount, should do it. Okay. So let me go ahead, and I'm gonna grab you, and I'm gonna show you exactly how this is mixed up. So that way you see a nice, how it should look. Go ahead and start mixing all this together. Okay. So this is what it looks like when I just dropped it in. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just mixing this, and obviously it wants to stick to the walls. But this is going to turn this whole thing real black very quickly. See?